What's up, everybody? Derek Anderson, the DA. Yep, sorry, y'all. It's negative time. Everybody gets on me about being negative, but you know me, I call it like I see it when it comes to this stuff. And yeah, here we go again. The Flash losing money. We all knew this was coming. We knew this was going to happen. This thing is going to be an utter disaster for the Flash in the box office. And we're also talking about Elemental this week as well. Because look, both of these films, if you look at it, you're talking about DC Comics, you're talking about Pixar. You're talking about two of the biggest brands in mainstream entertainment in terms of the movies. So you expect to go to a DC movie and that thing is going to be, at least doing decent. It's not going to necessarily break box office records or anything, but it probably will make its money back. It'll probably leave with a little bit left in its pocket. And definitely with Pixar, you expect quality all the way. And you expect the families to be flocking to this thing. And, this thing is going to churn out major money. And neither one is the case for either one of these two films. You can see on this headline by Deadline, The Flash loses speed with the $60 million 3-day opening, and here's why. So they're going to tell us why this thing is making less money than Black Adam did in its opening weekend. Black Adam only made about $65 million. So I want y'all to consider this for a minute. Black Adam makes $65 million. You had The Rock as Black Adam. You had the Justice Society, and then you had a Henry Cavill cameo. Those were your selling points to go and see Black Adam. In this film, you have Michael Keaton coming back in first time in 30 years to reprise his role as Bruce Wayne and Batman. You have a new Supergirl showing up. You have Zod. You have Ben Affleck's Batman. You have all kinds of cameos galore that have been promised in this film. $60 million. I've been explaining that this thing is not going to do very well, and I gave you the reason, but let's see if they get into it because I'm curious. I haven't read this yet. I'm curious to see if they mention what I've been saying all along. There are a lot of lessons to be learned this weekend, but chief among them is what it's like for a major motion picture studio to open a movie with largely a number of its cast, primarily its main star, not available to do press. That ain't got nothing to do with it. That has nothing to do with it at all. Yeah, this guy, Ezra Miller, hasn't been able to get out there and do press, but that has nothing to do with the reason why nobody's coming to check for this movie. I've already explained that. Let's see if they talk about it. That's the big looming question that has been on everyone's mind in the wake of Ezra Miller's tabloid-laden 2020 to 2022 in regards to Warner Brothers DC's $200 million. A reminder, they spent $200 million on this damn thing. The Flash, which isn't looking good with a 3-day around $60 million, off from the $70 to $75 million the studio would expect it. So time out. So listen, they expected this thing to get $70 to $75 million, and it's not even going to do that. It's not even going to do that. And they spent $200 million. Listen, if you spend $200 million on a major motion picture, wide release all over the world, you want this film, in my opinion, to come somewhere in that triple digit range. $100 million opening weekend. Because look how much money you have to make to get your money back when you're talking about the budget you spent. And I guarantee you they spent more than this $200 million on the budget. But you're talking about the budget you spent plus the marketing and everything that's going into this. You got to expect, we need something well above $100 million. Probably $120 million would be, solid. Okay. 60 million? They made half of that amount? Half! In 3 days. And again, this is lower than Black Adam. This is an absolute disaster. The studio is still expecting the Juneteenth holiday to deliver and get the film to $70 million over the 4 days at 4,000 plus theaters. If that's the case, that's the first time the federal holiday, which has not proven itself to be a big movie-going day yet, has yielded a daily gross for a movie north of $10 million. Yeah, Juneteenth, people are doing picnics. It's more of that type of a holiday if they're doing anything at all. They're really counting on Juneteenth to get this thing to the $70 million, not even to the 75 plus. It's like, okay, with Juneteenth, we'll get somewhere close to maybe $80 million. No, they're hoping that they get to $70 million over Juneteenth. This is a huge disaster. I don't want anybody to mistake the words that I'm saying. This is a very big disaster right now for Warner Brothers. But again, I called this. I said this was going to happen. I said this back in January. They haven't mentioned it yet. Let's see if they mention it going forward. Last year's Jurassic World Dominion made $8.6 million over Juneteenth. The Pick did $24.5 million yesterday, which includes Thursday previews. Other studios see these figures lower. Given the $9.7 million in previews last night, at a glance, it looked like Flash had the potential to overdeliver and beat its weekend estimates, and that's looking less likely now. Should the movie have gone straight to Warner Streaming Max? Absolutely not. They need to make as much money as they can, and that's through Windows. And yeah, this is a fair point because, you know, they're basically at this point chasing to see how much money they can get back, how much money they won't lose. You know, at this point, that's what they're doing. You know, yeah, they absolutely should have said, you know what, it's going straight to theaters. We can't send this to HBO Max. That was one option, definitely, that they had. They wouldn't have spent all of that money that they spent on marketing. But the bottom line is there's no urgency to go see The Flash. There's zero urgency. There's no reason I can't wait to go watch this. Unless I'm a huge comic nerd, unless people were saying, this is the greatest superhero movie of all time, which is the reason why they said all of that crap. Because you can see on Rotten Tomatoes, yeah, this joint is far from the greatest superhero movie of all time. 67% on Rotten Tomatoes. And then, of course, if we dig deep into the top critics are giving it a 50. They don't give the greatest superhero film of all times a 50. They don't do that. And then even with the verified audience at 86%, all audiences are at an 80. You know, you go back and you look at some of the other films that are quote unquote the greatest of all time. Let's just take The Dark Knight. Let's stay in the DC universe. Let's take The Dark Knight, for instance. Yeah, you can see it's 94 and 94. And then even when you dig in with the top critics, they got it at an 88. I don't think they did all audiences back then or top, you know, verified audiences back then. But 94%. Everybody loved it. It was across the board acclaim. So yeah, this thing is not even close to that. With the SAG-AFTRA strike authorization in place should talks go sideways and actors not permitted to do press in these situations, the studio streamers, etc., may want to think twice before playing notorious hardball, as this is what happens when your cast isn't available to promote a major motion picture. You see what they're trying to do? These guys are, you know, basically being homers for the actors. They're saying, oh, you got to make sure that you make deals good, make a good deal with the actors. Otherwise, they can't go out and do press for all your stuff. Look what happened to The Flash. That don't fly. That's not the reason why this film, The Flash, didn't do well, because Ezra Miller's criminal ass wasn't out there promoting the film. Get out of here with that crap. The reason it is, as I just said, what was the urgency to go watch this film in theaters? I can easily wait 2, 3 months, 6 months. I don't care. What's the urgency to go see this film? This isn't something that's going to be talked about in my cultural spaces. See, the Marvel Cinematic Universe built up a cinematic universe for all of these little smaller properties like Guardians and Ant-Man and, you know, Doctor Strange that people never would have watched for any other reason. But because it's connected to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, okay, I'll go and check it out because it's telling a larger story. The Flash is disconnected from anything going forward. It's not a part of the reboot. And that's what I was saying. As soon as they announced the reboot, the moment they announced the reboot, that was it. Your general audience, they were completely checked out. They have no reason to stick with this or any of the films that came in 2023. I said that in January. There is zero reason to go and watch a cinematic universe that's about to get the reboot. You know what I mean? Like, why would you go and spend your money on this? Money is tight as it is right now. So if I'm going to go out and watch something, I want it to mean something going forward. Okay, I'm going to get a little bit of information about this film, and then I'll get some more about the next one, and then the next one, and I'll be, you know, living in the story as it's being told to us. I'll be right there along with it the whole way. That's what the Marvel Cinematic Universe was, and then I'm talking about it with my friends, and we're discussing it and arguing it, coming up with theories. What are the theories you're going to come up with The Flash? It's a done deal. It's closed. That book is shut. The story is done. There's no reason to go to this. James Gunn blew it when he announced the reboot. I said that then, I say that now. And the box office proves that I'm right. And look, there's something else going on here with The Flash. Billed by co-DC boss James Gunn back in January, it's probably one of the greatest superhero movies ever made. Of course he's got to say that. He's got to try to sell this crap any way he can. And he didn't do it. And look, see what they're saying right here? The moviegoers disagree, giving it a B cinema score. That's not a great cinema score, okay? And 77% on ComScore, Post-Track X6 with a 59% recommend. That ain't what those greatest superhero movies of all time have gotten in the past. It's not that good of a film. I saw the film. It's okay, but it's nothing to rush out and see. I'll have a review up on it later on, but there's nothing to rush out and see this film for. It's an okay movie. It's not bad, but it's not great. It's like, you can skip it. You can skip it. You won't feel like you wasted your time and money, but you could totally wait for this thing. You could just, yeah, you know, that's cool. I wait for it. You know, it's a decent story. I can wait for it. And that's the problem. You can try to build this as the greatest superhero movie of all time all you want to. But eventually, people are going to start reviewing it. And when Rotten Tomatoes comes out, and if that thing is at 100%, 100%, 100%, you think that stuff doesn't matter? Maybe to you it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter to me either. But you're talking about like the general normies out there that look at the Rotten Tomato score. It matters to them. This guy said it's the greatest superhero movie of all time, and it's getting like a 70% on Rotten Tomatoes. Nah, I'm good. I ain't gonna waste my time. Let's find something else to do this weekend. That's what people do. But if this thing said, oh, greatest superhero movie of all time, and then it's coming out and it's in the 90s, in the high 90s, 97, 98%, and it's like 100 reviews, everybody would have went to see this film. So you can't lie and try to schmooze people over. Oh, it's probably one of the greatest movies ever made. You can't do that, okay? People will start looking at the scores and seeing, okay, well, what is this thing coming out to? Oh, 70%, 75%, shit, even 80%. Nobody's buying it. And so that's where you drop the ball. And again, all he had to do is say, you know what? We're going to try to do everything we can to incorporate as much of the DCEU as possible into our cinematic universe. Yeah, we're doing some things differently, but we're going to try to bring in as much of this stuff as we possibly can. We don't want to just completely abandon that universe. That's all he had to say. And people would still be like, okay, well, maybe some of this stuff goes forward. I want to see what happens in The Flash. Maybe The Flash will set up his new Superman or whatever, you know, and anything could have happened. But he decided to just be like, well, we're not really, you know, maybe Ezra Miller stays on. Maybe he doesn't. We don't know. It's like, forget it. I'm not interested in this at all. What about the whole multiverse stuff and bringing back Michael Keaton's Batman? To the average Joe moviegoer, what The Flash is at the end of the day is a movie about a deeper universe DC character, and that's The Flash. Going deep universe on a superhero movie comes with the risk of posting less than $100 million plus openings, and yes, franchises have to start somewhere, i.e. Thor, Captain America. See, he's 100% right about all of this, okay? They got to start somewhere, and they're going to start around, you know, this $65 million mark. But he said, yeah, it's a deeper DC universe character. This isn't Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman. So you can't try to spin them off like, oh, well, you know, you just drop a Flash movie at any time, and it's going to clock $100 million. You can only do that in the context of a cinematic universe when you've been building this guy up. That's why Black Panther did well. And then again, Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel came right before Endgame, and everybody knew they had to go and watch that film. Just again, more miscalculations by DC. They had an easy way out of this. They decided to go in a completely different direction once again, and you can see the results. Flash is about to flop. We're going to see Blue Beetle flop. We're going to see Aquaman flop. It's going to be the same thing for the rest of the year. Anyway, folks, what do y'all think about this situation? Again, the Flash absolutely flopping. We'll get to Elemental on another video, but you guys go ahead, jump down in the comments, give me your thoughts and opinions on that. And thanks for watching. See you next time.